OMG. Here's the shocking reason TLC fired two stars of 1,000-pound sisters, Tammy and Amy Slaton exposed. Disclaimer. This is a purely fictional, creative tabloid-style feature inspired by reality TV culture and the public personas of Tammy and Amy Slaton. It is not a factual news report. Names and events are used for storytelling purposes only. If you thought reality TV ran on drama, wait until you read the behind-the-velvet curtain blockbuster we've stitched together. In this sensational, shoe-biting exposé, we peel back layers of production gloss, legal fine print, and late-night locker room whispers to reveal the jaw-dropping reason TLC, the network that built entire careers out of confessional tears and weight loss montages, allegedly parted ways with two of its most recognizable faces, Tammy and Amy Slaton.
Think you know the story? Think again.
This one's full of secret meetings, frantic text messages, an on-set meltdown that would make a Greek tragedy look like a sitcom, and a corporate decision that left fans reeling and tabloids drooling. The Slaton sisters' rise was textbook reality TV alchemy, raw vulnerability plus charismatic personalities plus a family dynamic so volatile it could power a small city.
Producers loved them. Viewers couldn't stop watching.
Social media influencers courted them.
Sponsors called.
The family's private lives became the show's highest-rated public property. But success has teeth. With every season came more cameras, more opinion pieces, and more pressure to be on. What insiders describe as an escalating demand for sensational content drew the family into a pattern that was hard to escape: bigger conflicts, riskier stunts, and ever more intimate confessions staged for the cutaway camera. To the public, the Slatons were the lovable train wreck who, between crying fits, taught a nation to care about weight, family, and survival. Behind the scenes, when the lights went down and the boom mic retreated into the rafters, the pipeline from daily life to primetime apparent reality started to clog with complications no one had scripted. It started with a whisper on set, a disagreement over a confidentiality clause. Then came a late-night text from a production assistant: Tammy refuses to sign new waiver. The waiver wasn't ordinary. It extended production control over personal brand deals and social media activity that used footage filmed on set. Imagine, for a moment, being asked to hand over the rights to your own selfies when they were taken during confessional. That's how bold the new contract read.
Tammy balked.
Amy, who historically fronted many of the show's most painful moments, flipped. No way, she reportedly told a producer in a voice that, according to sources, could curdle milk. Negotiations hemmed and hawed. A producer, quoted for dramatic color in our fictional telling, muttered, "We wanted coherence for the brand."
They wanted autonomy over their lives.
That's when the fishes showed through. Once the sisters pushed back, the network allegedly began a soft campaign to redefine them, from subjects to liabilities. Every reality series that survives long-term develops a playbook: control the narrative, minimize leaks, and ensure talent remains manageable. The Slatons, by resisting certain creative and legal demands, reportedly moved from talent to question mark in the studio's internal spreadsheets. Here's where our story takes a dramatic turn into the kind of overnight madness that gets passed around like a ghost story in production offices. Picture this: late in the season, during a multi-camera shoot at a rented house, the atmosphere was already tense. Crew members were on edge from long hours. The sisters had been battling exhaustion and raw nerves for weeks, and the new content demands had already been discussed in more than one heated meeting. The filmmaking team wanted a confrontation scene, something raw, confrontational, TV-worthy, to cap the season. A director suggested staging a reunion where old wounds would be reopened and emotional truths shouted. Tammy and Amy consented, but requested it be handled sensitively. That's when the drama reportedly went off the rails. Our fictional sources say an off-the-cuff producer prodded a family member, someone not previously central to the public narrative, to reveal a private medical detail on camera.
The air shifted.
Words were exchanged. Amy, already exhausted, snapped. The scene that followed was not the cinematic catharsis the producers hoped for. It was an unfiltered pile-up of hurt, accusation, and panic. Crew members claimed the situation escalated physically: furniture overturned, a cameraman shoved, and security called. It was messy, chaotic, and viral in the making. In this imagined report, cameras kept rolling even as production managers argued whether to cut. When executives finally saw the dailies, the bloodless legalese that usually precedes corporate action started to gather into sentences. Networks don't fire stars lightly. Firing is a high-stakes gamble. You risk alienating viewers and creating a narrative vacuum the tabloids will fill. But according to our fictional insiders, the footage from that night offered the network a terrifying possibility: exposure. Not the kind they sell to advertisers, but exposure that could spawn lawsuits, medical privacy complaints, or worse, a public campaign accusing the network of exploiting vulnerable subjects. A corporate executive in our story reportedly called an emergency meeting: legal, HR, the head of reality programming, and PR. They watched a 3-hour compiled reel.
They read transcripts. They tallied risk.
In the end, the decision that emerged was cold and corporate. The Slaton sisters would be removed from the active roster and the network would go in a different creative direction. Officially, the network issued a statement about creative adjustments, what every entertainment publicist calls a polite divorce.
But behind closed doors, sources say it was a much more complex calculus.
There were non-compete clauses to unravel, pending sponsor deals to reassign, and an anxious scramble to reframe the narrative before the internet could turn it into a feeding frenzy. When the news dropped, leaked in a blockbuster of a tabloid post that mixed rumor and screenshot legalese, fans exploded. Socials split into camps: those who believed the network was cowardly, silencing truth for profit, and those who argued the network finally took responsibility for lines crossed on camera. Hashtags trended, friends made GoFundMe pages, and conspiracy threads proliferated. In our fictional recreation, Tammy launched an emotional live stream, crying through a face lit by the blue of a phone screen. Amy posted a cryptic message: "They took our story, but they will not take our voice." Both uploaded images of family dinners and hospitalized loved ones, attempting to reclaim the narrative. Clips of the on-set meltdown circulated, then disappeared, then were mirrored across platforms in a chaotic digital scavenger hunt. Media outlets smelled an opportunity. Celebrity pundits lined up. Former producers spilled redux of how reality shows balance on a blade, the ethical tightrope of capturing authenticity without hurting real lives. The Slaton defenders insisted this firing was corporate greed, remove the unpredictable to protect the brand's predictable profitability. Now for the twist that flips the whole saga on its head, the alleged contractual clause that, in our creative account, became the smoking gun. Insiders told us the network had quietly introduced a clause that would allow it to unilaterally withdraw a person's platform if continued participation presented a material risk to the welfare of the cast, crew, or public image of the network.
Vague? Terrifying? Both.
From a PR standpoint, it was a catch-all. From a legal standpoint, it handed power to people who already had cameras pointed at private lives. The clause was pitched as a safety net, to remove dangerous behavior or protect mental health. But critics argued it was a sword, a clause that could be wielded to silence dissent or reconfigure the show without fanfare. When Tammy and Amy balked at additional waivers, specifically the social media control clause that would allow the network to vet and monetize posts referencing the show, executives allegedly invoked the risk clause. They argued the sisters' erratic online behavior could inspire copycat scenes, legal entanglements, or sponsor withdrawals. Whether genuinely about safety or quietly pretextual, the clause did the job the network needed. It severed the connection and made reconciliation messy. Beyond contracts and corporate memos lies the human story: the sisters, their family, and the crew who once called them colleagues. In our creative telling, the Slatons found themselves unmoored.
Income streams dried up.
Producers they trusted no longer returned calls.
Sponsors rerouted campaigns.
But the personal costs were deeper: reputations strained, medical care disrupted, and a family dynamic that needed repair without the economic engine that backed it. Counselors popped up in comment sections, offering armchair diagnoses. Reality TV ethicists weighed in about consent under economic pressure. Some crew members privately worried about their own jobs. When you burn talent, you also burn the goodwill that makes a show possible. And once the camera stopped rolling, disparate obligations remain: mortgages, medical bills, and the often invisible labor of emotional recovery.
Firing isn't just layoffs and a press release.
It's the choreography of NDAs, release forms, and the fine print that many sign without fully pausing. In our dramatized account, legal teams looped in, drafting severance packages that included gag orders and non-disparagement clauses. The sisters considered their options: fight and risk protracted litigation, or accept the settlement and move on.
Secrecy was the currency exchanged.
In exchange for a lump sum and assistance in finding new representation, the sisters would agree not to disclose the internal process or disparage the network. For some, it's an offer too hard to refuse. For others, the price of silence is too dear. The real moral question, And the one our fictional narrative hates to leave unresolved is whether truth gets buried for the sake of calm spreadsheets.
Networks watched carefully.
The Slaton situation, as we're imagining it, sets a precedent. Networks can and will use broad contractual language to control not only how stars appear on camera but how they behave off it. Talent agents, suddenly jittery, sent memos to their clients. Read every clause, get independent counsel, and never default to signing what's given on the spot. At the same time, some execs nodded approvingly at the decisive move. We have to protect brands, one fictional executive told us. Predictable programming is less risky for our bottom line. Others whispered about a future where networks build more robust human services, mental health professionals and legal advocates embedded in production teams, both to support stars and to insulate companies from reputational fallout. In short, it was a lesson learned, the kind the industry hates to admit. Reality television cannot survive without real people being treated like people.
Fans didn't just rage, they organized. In our story, fan petitions demanded transparency.
A once-hidden fandom turned into an organized lobby.
Bring Them Back trended for weeks. Support pages raised money for legal fees.
Others, more performative, called for advertiser boycotts. The public fought for a narrative where the Slatons weren't disposable drama but individuals with rights. At the same time, a counter-narrative emerged. Some viewers defended the network's decision, citing protection of minors, privacy concerns, or the need to set ethical boundaries. The polarized reaction exemplified how culture now reacts, fast, loud, and rarely united. If you've lived in entertainment long enough, you know the best stories don't end at scandal.
They end at comeback.
In our fictional scenario, Tammy and Amy did not vanish. Instead, they pivoted. They started a podcast, raw, unfiltered, and above the network's reach, where they narrated their truth. They launched a merch line, partnered with independent creators, and leaned into grassroots support. The impromptu move to creator economy independence, in our telling, became the ultimate rebuke to corporate control. Did they rebuild to the heights of their TV fame? That's left intentionally ambiguous. But the sisters' new platform offered one liberating thing networks seldom provide: autonomy. There are lessons tucked between the tabloid headlines and the legalese.
Power flows where contracts allow it.
A few lines on a page can shape careers and silent stories.
Ethics matter.
If networks want authenticity, they must also take responsibility for the welfare of those who provide it. Talent has leverage, until it doesn't. Star power can be a shield, but terms of engagement and the economic reality of production often outlast charisma. The audience is no longer passive. Social media has democratized influence. Fans can organize, foment, and sometimes protect.